Welcome to another episode of Philosophy Workout. Today I'm with the former mainstream journalist, whistleblower, Oliver Janich. He has a huge name in Germany for telling the truth on YouTube and on books. Oliver, maybe you can just introduce yourself.
Hi, John. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah, as you said, I'm a former mainstream journalist. Now I'm a real journalist because as a mainstream journalist, you're not always telling the truth. I mean, I tried it for myself, but the mainstream media which I worked for don't tell the truth. And I was one of the first journalists in the world, I guess, who wrote in a mainstream magazine about 9/11. The truth about 9/11, meaning that the official theory is wrong. And but this was the end of my career in mainstream media, and since then I'm a real journalist. I'm working for alternative media, but I work for the biggest companies in Germany, so I really know from the inside what fake news are.
You worked for the mainstream journal Focus, if I remember correctly, and you were able to even publish a few articles where you tell a little bit of the truth. I think it was about September 11.
Yes, it was about 9/11 and the inconsistencies, and it was both stories were title stories, and it sold out. It sold completely out. It was the best numbers ever. Of course, my chief editor liked it, but not the chiefs of my chief editor. They didn't like it. But I didn't only tell the truth about 9/11. I also wrote about the global warming scam very early on, years ago. I mean, now we have a president in the United States who also knows that it's a scam, and it is a scam. And I wrote it many years ago, I think more than 10 years ago. So also here I was one of the first journalists in Germany, maybe the first, and one of the first journalists in Europe who wrote about it. And other topics too. I wrote about the fiat money system very early on, more than 10 years ago, and that was not a topic in German mainstream media. Now it is a little bit, but not really good enough to push it through. So I had the opportunity to tell a lot of truth in the mainstream media.
I don't know if you want to talk about it, but you're not anymore in Germany because you considered it too dangerous to stay in Germany for you and to continue working as a journalist, as a real journalist.
Yeah, yes, we can talk about that. I went to the Philippines because I knew what would happen, and that's exactly what happens now as we are speaking. So this will be our main topic, the censorship in Germany, and I knew that it is coming. I knew it years ago. So I prepared myself for immigration or migrating to another country because I knew that the censorship will come, and now we have it. And I'm sure, for example, colleagues of mine already got raided by the police, and they did not say other things than me. So I'm sure if I would be in Germany now, I couldn't do my work as I do it now anymore. And the police already would have raided my home. So I'm very happy with my decision because I wouldn't do the YouTube videos like I do it. I wouldn't post articles like I do it now when I still were in Germany.
So you're a little bit like a German Snowden since you left the country to tell the truth.
A little bit, but not. I'm not so much in danger like Snowden, because Snowden really published secret informations. I do not do that because I know it's too dangerous. I report mainly about things you can find if you're really looking closely. So, for example, the global warming scam, you don't need secret information on that. You just need a brain. Yeah. So I connect informations which are already public, but in a way that the people understand, especially in my books, that the people understand why are they doing it. So there's always a purpose behind every action of a politician, of course, or a corporate media. And you can explain that without having real secret informations. And I didn't have to seek asylum yet in the Philippines. Maybe that will come, but of course, you never know if you get asylum then. So I don't know if it's getting worse and worse. Then the German prosecutors can demand from the Philippines that I come to Germany and so on. So you are not safe in any place in the world, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's tough. I would like some asylum for people that want to tell the truth in Germany. I already talked in my videos about, I do self-censor in my videos. I don't talk about everything that I think or that I read and that I can come up with. Can you talk about it, how it would be if you were still a mainstream journalist, and tell us about how today a mainstream journalist has to work? Are there even people that want to tell the truth, or are they just career journalists anymore in Germany?
I think it changed. Back then, 10 years ago, when I started writing about 9/11, I think, well, they told me that they thought I'm a madman. I'm a how do you say it? A Spinner. What do they say? What's the English word?
Yeah, madman or crazy person.
Yeah, crazy person.
Conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. They thought I'm a conspiracy theorist, which of course I'm not. But later on, I talked to some colleagues, and they changed their opinion. I think now about a third of the focus journalists know what's going on, but they want to keep their jobs. So they say me, not a third, tell me that I'm not connected with a third of them, but a few. And they tell me, yeah, of course, I want to keep my job. I want to feed my family. I know you are right. It was not long ago that I talked to a high-level journalist in the public TV, really high level, and I didn't know him from face to face, but he came to me. I was sitting there. It was back in Germany, and I was sitting there. Yeah, I know you from your videos. I said, yeah, okay. What are you doing? And he told me on which high level he is. And then I said, yeah. Then I asked him, why don't you tell the truth if you know that I'm right? That yeah, I have to feed my family. I'm preparing for the crash. He's prepping himself. He gets weapons and so on for his family. And he told me that that was TV. If we would propose these topics, it would never air. But instead, he would be fired. So he said it doesn't make sense for him to propose a true video, a true film, because it would not air. It would not go on air. So he says, okay, he keeps it for himself. Perhaps he speaks to colleagues. We didn't talk about that, but this is rational. I mean, as he told me that, I was a little bit. I like the fact that there are people within the system waking up, because he doesn't do something against it, but it's good for me to know that they know what's going on. It would be
so you know they're not completely stupid, and you know you're not completely crazy, because yeah, I think that's one heroic thing also. If you want to tell the truth, like you cannot have a family and children currently. You have to be like a Wild Western hero, go your own way, and yeah, I think people should really appreciate that. Germany is a high-tech country with really smart people, so the censorship is also really high-tech and really difficult to find out as a normal person, I think. And for example, how does it work? It's not as easy as you're not allowed to say anything bad about Merkel. I can criticize Merkel to the full extent. I can show her the bad photos of her where she looks tired or incompetent. But how does the censorship in Germany work?
Yeah, it's getting worse and worse. So, for example, I'm constantly banned from Facebook. Now for 30 days, and before that, I was banned for 30 days, and I was back on Facebook for 1 or 2 days, and then I was banned again. But it was all for things in the past. It was months ago, because I never was banned, because I knew what they don't want to see. And the only thing I did is I posted cartoons, because I knew that the software is not good enough to grasp the cartoon, to get it.
And memes maybe, yeah.
Yeah, and memes.
Photos.
But then they were sophisticated enough to see what's in the cartoon, or some people are flagging me. And so now they go back in my past and see what cartoons did he post. And it's totally crazy because I don't do it anymore. I don't post cartoons anymore. I want to comply to the rulers. Yeah, I have to if I want to stay on Facebook. And of course, I wrote them, hey, I don't do the cartoons anymore. Yeah, fuck off. But of course, they are not interested in a dialogue. And so I'm still constantly banned. But I knew what you can do and what you cannot do. Many people wondered why I wasn't suppressed the days before. But I know what they don't want to hear because the laws, even before the censorship law now of Heiko Maas, it was in the law that you cannot or must not insult a group of people. That's merely impossible because you always insult a group of people if you engage in a political discussion. For example, if I say what the Green Party is doing is insane, then I insult the Green Party people. And this is already in place for years. So I never did that. I insulted people, but directly because then the one person has to accuse me. And of course, this does not happen all too often. So I knew what I did. But now it's getting worse and worse. So nearly everybody can go to jail for any opinion.
And so what you did as a strategy is you had your own website and you went to the Russians. Isn't it interesting that like Snowden, one has to go to Russia, maybe to the Russian network, the Russian Facebook, vk.com, and to be able, that's how I contacted you, because on Facebook sometimes you're available, sometimes you're blocked, so I cannot communicate with you that way.
Yes, I did not only go to VK. I was interviewed by Russia Today, which is a governmental TV. So you have to. It's like in the former German East German Republic, or not? DDR, German Democratic Republic. They had to had to watch Western TV to know the truth. And now we have to watch Russian TV to know a little bit of the truth. Of course, it's propaganda too, but there's more truth on Russia Today than on the public TV in Germany. And this is it's so sad. And the saddest thing about it is that most of the people don't grasp this. We are still a small minority. The truthers or libertarians like you are still a minority.
How is it with the different age groups, like the people in your age and the teenagers? How can the mass media still keep them captured, the young people, because they have access to the internet? For them, it's just one click to go to your channel, and the truthers themselves can just send an email to their friends or instant message, while the elderly people, they are like monolithic, watching the mainstream press, reading the daily printed paper. How does it work with the different age groups in Germany to keep them unconscious?
Yeah, of course, you're right. The older people are very easy to control because they still have their papers, but even that is changing. So within the truth movement, we have all ages. It's a little bit like there are two groups which are not high in number but very active. It's the older ones who have time now, who are retired. They are very active, and which is very seldom in the truth movement is women. But if they engage, then they are very active, and that's the same with the elderly people. So if they do something, they do more. But on average, the truther is male and young. So and of course he is young because he's used to the new media. And they even don't buy any newspapers anymore because you don't need it. So I think, that are the different groups.
Let's talk about the election that's coming up in 4 days in Germany, and we have to think about if it's manipulated, What are they doing to keep? We see a lot of efforts in the media to smear the AfD. What's your take on this?
Yeah, it's totally manipulated. That is clear. Like in the US with Donald Trump, the media is totally biased against the AfD, and you could compare the AfD with Donald Trump, more or less. It's similar. It's similar, and of course, like the AfD is smeared as right-wing extremists, but in reality they are just conservative libertarians. So a little bit like Trump said, we have to see if he really does what he said. Yeah? But a little bit like that, closing the borders, which is not even right wing. It's just reasonable to do that, and they are smeared. So this is the biggest manipulation of the election, of course, and then the fake news about them, or they prep up a topic which is a non-topic. Yeah. I think your English listeners will not even care about if you bring that up. And we have real election fraud. We have manipulation of the election process. This is proven. It's a proven fact.
As a normal person, I would say, like, don't we have a very secure process, more secure than the Americans, in fact, because we still do it the old school way, using a pencil on paper and then counting the papers and then storing the papers for years?
Yeah, in this respect, it's better because we don't have the voting machines. We had it once, and then it was ruled out by the Constitutional Court, which was a very, very good thing. I applaud that. For this reason, it's safer. But of course, you can manipulate the counting process, and this is proven to be done. So you can make a statistical analysis in an election process. The numbers should disperse randomly, but it doesn't. So that's proven in past elections that it's not randomly. You don't have the random numbers. So it's proven that there's fraud involved, and it went.
So maybe that in different countings, there's always 438 for Angela Merkel in too many districts or something like that.
A little bit like that, yeah. It's a statistical process. It's proven. And in one of the last state elections in North Rhine-Westphalia, don't know the English, the biggest state in Germany.
North Rhine-Westphalia, I think.
Yeah. They proved it. There was a recount, and everywhere they recounted, it was wrong. And you can even argue that if they would have recounted in every location, it could have been 10% more for the AfD. You can't really tell because they only counted, I think, 0.5%, but they were all wrong. And always it was the AfD who got less votes than they really had, always. So that's a clear attempt for fraud against the AfD. It was not that somebody else was harmed by that. So I'm very sure that they will do that in the Bundestagswahl, in the big parliament elections too. But we try to counter that. I make videos about that, and other YouTubers to I don't know the English words, Wahlhelfer, to
help with voting and to oversee the voting.
Yeah, so you can go there. That's always a good thing in German law. I don't know how it's in the States. Every civilian, everybody can go there and watch them counting. Everybody can go there, and there's a big effort to do that. You can't do it in every location, but they try to do it. So the fraud maybe will be less than without that. But for example, the Briefwahl, the voting by letter.
Yes.
Yeah, voting by letter will be. I predict that the votes for the AfD will be much lower in that because you can manipulate it at one central point, and I'm very sure they will do that.
And this might not even be centrally managed, but just the people on the base that just do the electing, or do you think it's managed from top to bottom?
I don't think so yet. I think it's done by people who think they do the right thing because they think they fight the Nazis again. But they are not Nazis. But that's what they think. So they think they are doing good things.
And the foreign minister of Germany said it's a sad day that now again, after 70 years, Nazis go back into the Bundestag after the election. So,
right. Yeah. And the saddest thing about it is that he is harming Germany with that statement, because they take it for serious. It's a blatant lie. But that's internationally reported. So he harms the country Germany more than more than the AfD, because he says they are new Nazis, and if they win now and they get maybe 20% or something, which I think it's possible, everybody thinks, oh, they are new Nazis in the parliament, but it's a blatant lie. They are just conservative guys and not Nazis. So this is one of the biggest manipulations, of course, and yeah, it's a sad thing. The real Nazis, of course, the real National Socialists, they are international socialists. Angela Merkel and the guy who said that, I think it was Gabriel, right? Sigmar Gabriel.
Yes.
And they are international socialists. The Nazis were national socialists, and they are international socialists. And they use the same methods like the National Socialists: censorship, oppression, lying, fake news. So they are the real, not Nazis, but there's no term for that. They are international socialists.
And do you have any predictions about how they might go ahead in manipulating, reacting to it? Do you think they might even be able to keep them out completely from the getting into the Bundestag?
No. If they would do that, I mean, the polls show around 10 to 12% for them. So they can tell the people that it's only 5%, because you need 5% in Germany to get into the parliament. So if they would do that, then wow, that would be a major constitutional crisis. I think they are, in reality, they have about 20%. So maybe with a little bit election fraud, they can come up to 18%. What I'm hoping is that they beat the SPD, the Social Democratic Party. They are said to have 20%, around 20%, but maybe they get a little bit less. And the AfD, Alternative for Germany, we're talking about this party the whole time, is getting more than 20%. Then it would be the second biggest party, which is very hard to achieve, but that's what I'm hoping, because then maybe the totally insane immigration policy is stopped, or it gets a little bit better.
And let's talk about one of the things that really pushed the AfD to now probably the third biggest force in politics in Germany. When Merkel opened the borders, do you think that was intention? Was it like a fatal accident by Merkel that lost track with reality, or was it more like part of a larger plan?
Of course, it's part of a larger plan, and it is very easy to prove. I will prove that in my book that hopefully comes out in October in English. I have all the documents there. It's easy to prove that it was a plan, but to make it short, of course she was warned by intelligence and so on what would happen, because the crime rate would go up and so on. She was informed by legal advisors that what she is doing is illegal. Of course she knew it anyways, but for your listeners, for the English listeners, it's against the German constitution. Nobody can seek asylum in Germany if it comes out of a third state which is safe. And Germany is surrounded by safe states. So to open the borders for them is illegal, meaning that Angela Merkel is criminal. By the way, I have a shirt shop which says that Angela Merkel should go to jail like Hillary Clinton, and it was taken out of my shop. The censorship goes so far that they censored my T-shirts.
I wanted to put like "End the ECB" on a T-shirt, and the T-shirt shop didn't allow it.
What?
End the ECB, end the European Central Bank, like end the Fed.
Yeah.
We are not allowed to put that on a T-shirt.
No.
End Gov is the maximum you can go. End government, but end ECB, it's not possible to put it on a mainstream T-shirt producer, Spreadshirt.com.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it was Spreadshirt. It was Spreadshirt. My company also is Spreadshirt. So you can confirm it because I did not yet ask them if it's censorship, but I guessed it. So it's also Spreadshirt. Yeah, isn't that really sad? I mean, it's a fucking T-shirt.
Yeah, it's a political comment. Like Hillary for prison, you wouldn't be allowed to do that in Germany. You have to do it by, I mean, you are allowed to sell it probably if you print it yourself, but the mainstream T-shirt producers block you. And like I said, it's not even personal about Merkel. It's European Central Bank is protected by this censorship.
Yeah, I would.
You cannot say.
I wouldn't have thought that. If somebody would have asked me that, if they would ban that, I would have said no, that's impossible. But that even goes farther than what I experienced. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, I handed in like 30 designs. I went wild. I sold 2 T-shirts maybe until now, but I went wild, and only the end ECB shirts didn't get through. So it wasn't like my mistake. And I was surprised. And what can you do? But with Merkel. Again, there were the heads of security of Germany coming to her and telling her, Merkel, you can do what you want, but just we are telling you this will be a security risk we cannot handle in the way we handled things before.
Exactly. And one, it was in Spiegel, that was a mainstream, but it was only a small commentary in one article, and Jan Fleischhauer was the reporter, and he said that even one of them wanted to have schriftlich, wanted to have a confirmation signed by her.
Like a written signed, so they will be, if they go to court for their deeds, they will show you, like, the chancellor told me to do this.
Exactly. He wanted proof that and reportedly she refused. So if a policeman tells you, it was chief of police or something, tells you, hey, what you are doing is illegal, and I want an order, and she refuses it, so it's clearly done by purpose. And then you could argue, it's because she's caring about the refugees. But this is also easy to prove that it's wrong, because first of all, there were refugee camps, but the United Nations cut off the help, and it would have been much, much cheaper to help them there. And there are even safe locations in Syria. They go on vacation now in Syria. So, and even during the war. And most of them are not out of Syria. They're out of Africa. There is no war where they come from. So what they tell us about the refugees, they are not refugees, they are migrants. Illegal migrants. But they call it refugees. This is first, it's a manipulation. And secondly, of course, the chancellor knows that. I mean, you can't be so stupid. So there is clearly a plan, and it was laid out. It is replacement migration. There's a UN report about that. I think everybody knows it by now in our circles. Yeah? So it's a clear plan, and she's only following orders.
Now to our last topic. Let's talk about America and I think Trump is the sanest president maybe since Reagan, or you might have a different opinion, but he has many smart ideas that the half of the Americans like, and the German press is kind of trying to block those ideas spreading to Europe. That's at least my impression, and they smear Trump as a complete idiot. So it's like that you take the headlines of CNN and you spread them onto German news, left and right, and everybody thinks Trump is a completely crazy person. Did you see it the same way, or what's going on with this bad press? Because before, we didn't even have this bad press about George Bush, who was a warmonger.
Exactly, that's what they do. They do just copy paste. They take the CNN headlines and then copy into Google Translator, and then it comes out in German, and it is printed in German newspapers. It's totally ridiculous. And there was even in mainstream journals, he was portrayed as new Hitler. Yeah, I think I'm not allowed to show what they showed, because then I would be punished if you show like the the Hitler greeting. Yeah, we are not allowed to do that, but they did it, and they portray him like Hitler. And 90% of the Germans, there are polls about that. 90% of the Germans would have voted against him, but also 90% of Germans would have voted for Obama, because Germany is the most brainwashed country in the world. And that's why the censorship in Germany is needed. I mean, for example, there is already a censorship in place for 17 years now. You can't dissent you cannot have a other opinion on the German history. You're sent in jail for 70 years now. So we have censorship in place and re-education programs since 70 years. And that's why we are so brainwashed.
How does re-education work? Re-education. How would you describe that re-education program?
Yeah, officially, it should be told to the German people that freedom and democracy is good. But what they really did is to push on the Germans that the collective guilt. We are all guilty because of what Hitler and the Nazis did. Of course, there were many collaborators. I mean, he had, in the best election, he had 40% of the votes. So at least 40% of the Germans thought that it was a good idea to vote for Hitler, but it was not 100%. But nobody of them is living today anymore, almost nobody. So you cannot be punished for what your parents or grandparents did. But this collective guilt is pushed on the German people, and that's why they welcome the so-called refugees to feel better. They say, we have this guilt because of the Nazi time, and we have to help everybody, even if it's the most foreign, the most brutal, and the most violent culture in the world. We have to welcome them. That's the big brainwashing, and I mean, it's in whole Europe the case. Look at Sweden; they are more brainwashed even than the Germans. But of course, they had the same education. But it works also there. But especially in Germany, really 90% would have voted for Obama, and there you can see. I always laugh about people who look to the Americans and say, oh, they are not very well educated. You know that attitude? Yeah? Oh, the Americans are not well educated. Yeah. They are much more educated than Germans, because 50% voted for Trump, so 50% know more about politics than Germans. But they are snobby. The Germans are snobby. The Americans don't know about politics. It's the other way around.
Yeah, it's really snobbish, and it partly resulted from that we were against the Iraq War. At least that's why I was a little bit snobbish. Because I have many people that I know in America who said they were for the Iraq War, but it falls and raises the intelligence of the people toward those things with the journalists, because the German chancellor was against the Iraq War. Maybe that's influenced all the journalists. They were against the Iraq War, where they were telling, like, you see this break-in is at the Italian embassy or something, where they stole the right stamps to forge documents that then announced certain things, that Saddam Hussein had, like, weapons of mass destruction. So we already had all the evidence before the war started that the war was fake. So we felt really smart, but now it's maybe reversed in many cases, because they still have maybe that woke up the American journalists, or people like Alex Jones got more viewers because people noticed that they were lied to. Right.
Yeah, it changed over the course of time, but the tradition of liberty and freedom is much, much stronger in America. So that's why I'm glad that my next book comes out in English, because it was a bestseller in Germany, but I hope it will be even a better bestseller in English, because it's about liberty and the power elite, and I think the English readers will grasp it much more, even more than the German readers.
Yeah, and the power elite is global. So we that talk about the power elite need also to communicate among over borders, and not just stay in Germany. That's why I also have an English channel.
Yes, good idea.
So I hope I can get you back when you publish your book and we can present your book. Do you have any last statement?
Yeah, to the English viewers. You have to fight for us. I'm afraid, because the Germans are too brainwashed. So please fight for the Germans too. Fight for liberty and fight for truth.
Yeah, Thank you very much. This was Oliver Janich, one of the biggest freedom journalists, or maybe the biggest in Germany. And I hope to get you back one day.
Thank you, John.